Tonight's News Extra is about SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, a mysterious disease that steals babies while they sleep. But there is a scientist in England who believes he has made an important discovery in solving the mystery of SIDS. Many notable experts in this country disagree with him vehemently, so much so that they urged us and others not to report this story. But because the research is being taken seriously by the British government, we felt you had the right to hear both sides. And so we went to England to tell the story of the crib controversy, the first time the story's been told in the U.S.
You want to show them your dollhouse? Sure.
Pretty little Brittany Pritchard of Wakanda is 3 years old. It's hard to believe when you see her now so happy and healthy that when she was just a few days old, she was minutes away from dying in her crib.
I found her with foam around her mouth one morning, and she was blue. She wasn't breathing.
Karen Pritchard called 911, and they told her how to administer CPR. After that, Brittany spent the first 6 months of her life on a monitor that protected the infant from becoming a victim of sudden infant death syndrome, a mysterious disease that kills over 100 babies a week in the U.S. You think about her a lot still?
Oh, yeah, every day.
Around the world, SIDS is the #1 killer of infants under the age of 6 months old.
1 minute they're there and everybody's saying, oh, isn't she gorgeous, perfectly healthy, and then the next day, sorry, you know, that's it, ma'am, get on with your life.
But young mothers like Catherine Jackson are the other victims of SIDS, the emotionally walking wounded, left to search for an answer to the question, why? This man claims to have the answer to that question, and he has spent the last 6 years trying to get the world to listen.
I think that history is full of resistance to new discoveries.
Barry Richardson is a chemist who studies product safety in England. His new discovery centers around fire-retardant chemicals found in most U.S. baby mattresses: antimony, phosphorus, and in some rare cases, arsenic. Richardson's theory is that a harmless fungus found in the air in most homes interacts with the fire retardants. After time goes by, moisture and heat from the baby cause a chemical reaction that, according to the theory, emits a very toxic gas.
I think this is the primary cause of SIDS. I'm sure it is.
It's important to point out that Barry Richardson is the only scientist we could find who will say that. In 1990, the British government commissioned a study of Richardson's theory and found no evidence that it was true. But just in the last few months, Richardson's theory has picked up some support in England because of a TV program called The Cook Report. The program commissioned 2 independent scientists to study Richardson's theory. Unlike the government, the scientists were able to find the toxic gases. And then the scientists took the research one step further. They studied the tissue of babies who have died of SIDS. They looked for a chemical called antimony because it's easy to find in the body. In the control group, the children who died of something other than SIDS, antimony could be found in only 1 of 15 babies. In the SIDS group, antimony was found in 24 of 40 babies, some of them with levels 100 times higher than you'd expect to find in an adult. The report stunned Great Britain.
There was an absolute outcry. For 2 days, it dominated the headlines completely.
Along with the headlines, there was reaction and accusation. Mattress companies in England announced they would stop using the fire retardants. Dozens of parents joined in class action suits against the government, claiming a cover-up.
We resist that accusation absolutely. There's no attempt to cover anything up.
And the British government has put together another commission with the promise of a comprehensive 2-year study.
We want to get to the root of that theory and prove it or disprove it.
The possibility of a link between fire retardants in mattresses and sudden infant death syndrome is being taken very seriously by the British Health Department, by the British court system, and by mattress companies here for the basic reason that babies' lives could be at risk. If that's the case, then why haven't we heard anything about this in our country? The answer may surprise you. The National SIDS Alliance in Baltimore, Maryland has flooded CBS fax machines in Chicago and New York trying to stop us from doing this story, calling the Cook Report findings bad science, saying we would unnecessarily frighten parents and that we should cancel the broadcast. We asked the Pritchards what they think.
I'd rather know the information,
We'd rather know
yeah.
everything.
And
We would take every precaution, even if it
turned out to be, you know, that you were wrong or the information was wrong, that's so be it, but I'd rather, you know, err on the side of caution than that.
The Pritchards agreed to let us test the mattress that Brittany slept on. We sent it to England along with 7 other baby mattresses we purchased in Chicago. The results showed all 8 contained medium to high levels of antimony and phosphorus. Brittany's crib mattress had one of the highest levels. Now, that's not to say that antimony caused Brittany's near-death experience. Not even the scientists commissioned by the Cook Report completely buy into Richardson's theory. But both say something's there.
There's definitely something there. I mean, you can't just ignore these findings.
The British scientists are hoping that SIDS researchers in the U.S. will stop criticizing their research and start the process of either proving it or disproving it.
I really think that they should look at it perhaps with a less biased attitude. Let us accept that there may be something in it. It may be a long shot. How many babies would you like to die because you couldn't be bothered?
And in the end, even Julian Hoffman, the chairman of the SIDS Alliance, the same man who sent us one of those faxes, agrees.
There's a suggestion there that there might be something that's worth following up. We think 2 things. One is that it should be followed up, and secondly, that people should not take any action based on it until the information is confirmed and extended.
And in their strongest statement on the subject to date, the SIDS Alliance believes mattress companies should take action.
So yes, it would be prudent to try and remove potential toxic materials from bedding. But it would be also important to be quite sure that what you didn't replace them with was not more toxic.
Several U.S. mattress companies told us they'll wait for more conclusive research before they take such action. Many worried mothers are waiting too, but some are taking action. Catherine Jackson is one of the parents suing the British government.
As much as can be publicised, as much of a fuss that can be kicked up, and what I can do, I'm going to do, because otherwise it's going to be forgotten about.
And to a mother who has just lost a child, there is no such thing as forgetting. Now, if you're a parent, you're probably worried right now, and you want to know what you can do to protect your baby. Well, experts from both sides agree there is no need to panic. However, there are some things you can do that everyone we interviewed agrees can greatly reduce the chance of SIDS. In England, they started something a few years back called the Back to Sleep campaign. It has reduced the number of SIDS deaths by 70%. Here's what they recommend. First, and most importantly, put your baby to sleep on his or her back, face up, not face down. Don't put the baby on loose or fluffy bedding. You want a tight, firm surface. If possible, consider buying a new mattress for every baby. Avoid hand-me-downs. And finally, don't overwrap or overheat your baby. If you want more information, you can call the SIDS Alliance at 1-800-432-7437. Or write to us for this free Back to Sleep pamphlet. Send your request to Back to Sleep, P.O. Box 4400, Chicago, Illinois, 60680. We will continue to follow this stories in the days, weeks, and possibly years to come. Well, as you're watching this, it's just after midnight in Lillehammer, and what a day it was here for the Americans. The big story, of course, Dan Jansen, the hometown boy, finally comes through and wins the gold medal. The other big story, Tanya Harding talks. She holds a press conference, faces thousands of members of the world press, and does pretty well. She talks about skating, she talks about the Olympic Committee, and yes, she talked about Nancy. Under heavy security and even heavier scrutiny, Tanya Harding entered an Olympic-size auditorium and asked the world for just one thing.
I just hope that I'm treated fairly.
At times, the news conference took on the feel of a Senate subcommittee hearing, as Tanya conferred with her trainer and PR person before answering questions. Many times, her trainer would answer for her. LarryMendte from WBBM TV in Chicago. You were asked a little while ago about your feelings towards Nancy Kerrigan now, and your trainer answered for you but never really answered the question. Could you give us an answer?
I have a great deal of respect for Nancy, and Nancy and I met briefly, and we had a positive conversation, and it's private.
Is there tension there between the two of you?
I don't believe so.
It sure seemed like there was tension on ice as Tanya and Nancy Kerrigan practiced on the same rink in Hammer today, but definitely not together. The two seemed content to ignore each other. The song Tanya has been using in practice, Much Ado About Nothing.
They're both in the building, both of them.
The practices have been a media madhouse. That may be one of the reasons Tanya held today's surprise news conference, to alleviate some of the pressure.
I don't mind having the media, but I wish that it would cover a lot of the other great athletes that we have here, not only in figure skating, but other sports. I'd like to say congratulations to Dan, who just won, the gold medal in speed skating.
It was also a chance to unveil her new image, approachable, demure, pleasant. And for the first time anybody can remember, she displayed a religious cross.
Tanya, they say that you learn from every experience. What did you learn from all of this?
To believe in myself and to believe in my team and in my country, and not to give up.
Tanya Harding was tense throughout the news conference. It was obviously a stressful situation, but she kept a smile painted on her face throughout. One reporter did finally ask her, "Tanya, you seem so brave. Does it ever hurt?" And through smiling teeth, she responded, "Yes, it hurts now." In Lillehammer, LarryMendte, Channel 2 News.
They're your children, our children. But this year, a series of school bus accidents put them in danger. In a 2 News Extra investigation, reporter LarryMendte discovered convicted felons were driving your children to school. The reason? The state had no way to do background checks of these people. But all that's changed. Thanks to 2 News Extra, a new law requiring criminal checks of all school bus drivers was signed into action. 2 News Extra, making a difference, one story at a time.
Every morning, you put your children and a lot of trust in the hands of a school bus driver. But what do you really know about the driver?
It's upsetting. I mean, you don't never know if the child's going to make it to school. So it's fearful.
To ease a mother's fears, the state claims to have strict rules about who can drive a school bus. One of the rules is no felons allowed. And how do they stop someone from getting out of jail and then getting behind the wheel? Right now, it seems as if they count on the honor system. To drive a school bus in Cook County, you'll have to first go to Maywood and apply for a permit. On the application, they ask you if you've committed one of a long list of felonies. If you check yes, you have to find another line of work.
If I'm a convicted felon, and you have on the back of an application, "Are you a felon?" If I've just knocked off a liquor store, I'm going to lie about being a felon. It's not beyond me. So somebody has to check after that.
Somebody has to do the checking, yes.
And is anybody doing it?
As far as I know, the school districts do it.
But as far as we can tell, no one's doing it. News Extra was allowed access to the permits of Cook County's 11,000 school bus drivers. We jotted down some names and ran them through the state's computers. The results will shock you. Of the 140 school bus drivers we checked, 53 had felony convictions. That's 38%, more than 1 out of every 3. We showed our findings to the county superintendent of schools.
Well, I'm appalled. I think that this is an unnecessary danger to which children are being exposed.
The superintendent's office immediately started pulling the permits of every bus felon on our list, including this man, Matthew Murillo, convicted 2 years ago of sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl. Until 2 weeks ago, he was driving a bus route for Latino Express, a bus company contracted with the Chicago Public Schools. How was Matthew Murillo, a convicted sex offender, ever allowed to drive a school bus? Here's the way it's supposed to work. The local school districts, in this case Chicago, is supposed to give the names of all of its bus drivers to the state police for a felony check. We checked with the state police. They never received the name Matthew Murillo. As a matter of fact, they didn't receive the names of any of the felons on our list. Now, we've been calling the Chicago Public Schools several times over the last 3 weeks. Nobody here will talk to us. Maybe they'll talk to you. Here's the number, 535-8000. It's 535-8000. Give them a call. You deserve some answers.
A lot of people are going to say, convicted felons, they've done their time. Why can't they have a job as a school bus driver?
If you knew someone was a convicted felon, would you want your child riding on the bus with them?
But Nancy is going to be out of a job at the end of June. The county is closing up the superintendent's office where they issue all of the permits and keep them on file. So things are going to get a lot worse until something changes fast.
I'm outraged, and every parent in the state of Illinois that's got a kid that gets up in the morning and gets on one of those school buses ought to be outraged.
As a result of our investigation, the Secretary of State is pushing for a new law requiring all school bus drivers to be fingerprinted. That way, their criminal records could easily be checked by FBI computers. Whether it's the state, the FBI, the county, or the city, something has to change, and fast. There's too many mothers worrying, and way too much at stake. Larry Mendte, Channel 2 News. The flames dance in a macabre celebration of destruction and sometimes death. Too often, firefighters arrive at a scene like this too late to be the heroes they are trained to be. Cameras and reporters get there only in time to record the devastation and talk about what could have been.
If they would have had their smoke detectors in, been a little more careful, they could have been saved.
There isn't a firefighter alive who at a scene like this one didn't pray he or she could turn back time. In this one case, we can. In this case, the firefighters and even our cameras can get there before the destruction, before the mocking flames, before the fire even starts. All in an effort to show you how to survive. This house in suburban Frankfurt was slated to be torn down by developers. They allowed us to burn it down instead.
So this is really everybody's house. Everybody's house could catch fire. Everybody's house is pre-fire, and this is probably when you should prepare.
Right, and that's why we're here pre-planning.
Jim Grady is the chief of the Frankfurt Fire Department.
What to do is that the family should get together and develop a plan, and that plan should first and foremost have a working smoke detector like we have here in the hallway.
Do you think most families do that?
No.
We're going to show you why your family should. With 9 cameras, 5 shooting through holes cut in the wall, we'll show you how little time you have to react. Within 30 seconds of the first flames, the smoke alarm sounds. Consider that a starting gun going off. The race is on. You need to get out of the house before it fills with smoke. You need to stay low because the smoke falls like a thick, black, deadly curtain. When it hits the ground, you won't be able to see, breathe, or think clearly. In short, when the curtain comes down, you'll die. It took less than 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes to survive. Cameraman Dino Polizzi tried to sneak in the back low to the ground after the curtain of smoke came down.
You guys can't see that.
But in just a few seconds, he was overcome. It's the smoke that kills. Without the warning cry of a smoke detector, it travels through the house like a silent stalker. During our 5-minute fire, we left the door to a child's bedroom open. It was about 20 feet down the hall from the flames.
The fire did not get in here, but what got in here was the deadly smoke. If that would have been a child in here, we would have had another fatality.
But those sleeping in the master bedroom just across the hall...
That's incredible. It's cool in here.
...would have been safe and sound from the smoke and heat.
So by closing the door, a person in here, they should have heard the smoke detector, but if they didn't, they would have stopped through the fire and we probably would have woke them up.
And it's not just the smoke. After just 5 minutes, that small fire radiated enough intense heat that the phone, the doorbell chimes, even the smoke detector melted away to almost nothing in just 5 minutes.
In 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, if somebody would have stayed in here, that was a fatal fire.
Yes, without a doubt.
Tomorrow night, we relight the fire to let it burn for more than just 5 minutes. And with a special helmet camera, we'll put you in the middle of a fight against fire. We'll also show you how to make it out of the house through the flames and smoke. Tomorrow night, we burn the house to the ground. This is a scene very few people get to see and live to talk about. The inside of a raging house fire. Firefighters see it all too often. Now, thanks to a special helmet camera, we can take you inside. But well before the firefighters come in, you need to get out.
As soon as you hear that fire alarm, you have to react. Now, a lot of people stand straight up out of bed. It's a big mistake. What you need to do is roll out of bed. And remember, you only have a few minutes. Get to the closest exit. In this case, it is the windows. But you know what? A lot of people don't go to the window. Their instinct is to go to the door, either because they panic, or they didn't plan ahead, or maybe they want to go to a child or to some belongings. If you must go through the door, feel the handle first. If it's not hot, put your backhand against the door and then feel up. Because remember, this is where the heat and the smoke is. If you feel heat, like I do now, you shouldn't go out here. If you must go out, what you need to do is get down low. Because when you open the door, this is what's going to happen. Once you get down here, you don't have much time. You can't go and get any belongings or get a child because the fire is close by. As you can see, it's hot and your eyes sting. You should feel up on the door and grab a handle, and this is when you can get out. At this point, you only have a few seconds. It should never happen like this. You should never have to come through the door with smoke following you. You should plan ahead. A little intelligence, a little planning can save your life. At that moment, you're far too close to death.
Now, this is the most important part, but it can also be the most difficult. Once you're out, stay out.
If you are going to attempt to get someone in the house, do it while you're still in. But once you're out, do not go back in.
Why is that?
Because most people die when they go back in. As you can see, if someone would try to go back in now, there's just no way they could survive.
But sometimes firefighters have to go in when it's this bad. Because someone didn't plan ahead. Because someone didn't have a smoke alarm.
Do you have a smoke detector? Do you have an exit plan? Have you talked to your kids? Are you prepared for that?
This rare black leopard is an endangered species. Declawed and defenseless, it's released from a cage on a Texas hunting farm. It's not much of a hunt. After being mauled by dogs, it's finally shot to death by a businessman who paid $3,500 for the experience.
You got a good shot? You want to get higher ground? Are you okay?
They've been dubbed canned hunts because the animals don't have anywhere to run. And it's only illegal if the animal is an endangered species.
Hit him again, Sonny.
If the whole thing makes you sick to your stomach, you'll be happy to know most hunters feel the same way.
Right in the shoulder, she...
It's assassination is what it is. It's not hunting at all, and it disgusts me.
Paul Merzig books African safaris out of his Chicago office. He won't deal with hunting ranches, although he claims there are some legitimate ones. You can find them advertised in an international hunting magazine. They'll send you a price list if you want, lots of exotic animals from Africa and Asia, but nothing endangered, because that's illegal.
Wow, look at them.
But even on these spacious hunting farms, there is eventually a fence. This Corsican ram stands trapped and trembling as a hunter just a few feet away fills it with arrows.
It's shooting fish in a barrel, basically.
From the national headquarters of the Humane Society just outside of Washington, D.C., a man named Richard Farinato has spent the last few years investigating hunting ranches and the people who provide them with prey for profit.
Estimates are just the exotic animal trade alone in the $100 million a year mark.
There is an underground fraternity of dealers that sell and trade exotic animals through subscription catalogs and closed-door auctions. The top buyers at these auctions are hunting ranches. But where do the animals come from? Where do you get an old tame tiger for a rich man's fantasy?
The answer has got to be, and can only be, a zoo.
Every spring, America's zoos show off their baby animals. They draw TV cameras and big crowds. But when those babies grow up, sometimes there's not enough room at the zoo, and they're forced to have a clearance sale. When that happens, Earl Tatum from Arkansas shows up with a checkbook and a trailer. The problem is, Tatum is one of the top suppliers of animals to hunting farms. News Extra has obtained documents proving the Lincoln Park Zoo has sold animals to Earl Tatum.
It's a witch hunt, Larry.
Dr. Dennis Merritt is in charge of animal transactions for the Lincoln Park Zoo. He defends his relationship with Earl Tatum.
He is the premier animal transporter in North America.
High praise for a man who was the subject of a 60 Minutes investigation in 1990 where he was shown selling zoo animals at a Missouri auction. After the report, Tatum was convicted and fined for illegally transporting animals. He lost his professional accreditation, and several zoos stopped doing business with him. But as late as September of 1993, the Lincoln Park Zoo sold Tatum several animals, including 2 Grant's gazelles, very popular targets at hunting farms. We tried to interview Earl Tatum for this report, but as you can imagine, he's not a big fan of the media.
I'd like you to take your camera and just go do your thing.
Watch as he verbally and physically attacks a female photographer in San Francisco.
About on them people. I'm telling you, now just take your camera and go on because we got all the we need.
Dr. Merritt told me he would continue to deal with Earl Tatum until someone could show him direct evidence of impropriety. I showed him several documents proving Earl Tatum sells directly to hunting ranches.
That is not enough of an impropriety until it is demonstrated in a court of law.
He's not going to be convicted in a court of law of selling animals to a hunting farm because it's perfectly legal to do so. The ethical question for a zoo to sell to him, if he can be proved to sell to a hunting farm, is a completely different question. We're not talking about the legalities, we're talking about the ethics.
We have no reason to doubt either the word or the bond that we have with individuals like Earl Tatum.
This is the bond the zoo has with Earl Tatum. It's a standard contract stating that Lincoln Park Zoo animals cannot be resold for the purpose of hunting.
As long as Earl Tatum says, no, I will not do it, they're going to take his word for it and go off and let him take the animals. If I were a zoo director, I would not do that.
And Farinato says he would not sell to this guy either. Jürgen Schultz runs the Catskills Game Farm in New York. He admits to raising animals for hunting ranches, especially animals with big horns, the kind hunters like to display on their walls. Animals like the Arabian oryx. The Lincoln Park Zoo sold Schultz 2 of them in 1992. Of course, Schultz signed the same contract that Tatum did, and so far the oryx are fine. But they had babies. What about them?
We have assurances by way of the contract that we have that the animals that we send, and by inference, their offspring, will be treated in the same manner.
By inference?
In the same manner, and they are bound by that contract.
I've never heard the word inference used as binding in a legal contract.
The truth is, the Lincoln Park Zoo contract says nothing about the offspring.
Caesar. It's a zebra, Mama.
Soon it will be spring, and the Lincoln Park Zoo will once again proudly display its baby animals. But when they grow up, what will become of them? For News Extra, I'm LarryMendte. Lillehammer is a very simple village with very simple tastes.
What's this?
It's salmon.
Salmon? And how about this?
It's salmon too.
This?
Salmon.
It's all salmon?
Yes, it is.
After 10 days, I'm up to my gills with salmon. There must be some place in Lillehammer to get some good old-fashioned American food. McDonald's, an American oasis in the Norwegian salmon tundra.
What is Norse McLax?
That's salmon.
Salmon?
Yeah, salmon.
McSalmon? Norwegians eat this stuff?
Norway is the only place that you can get the McSalmon sandwich. It's made, it's a pure salmon in a sesame bun with lettuce and a special sauce. It's very good.
Yeah, I'll take your word for that.
Yeah, you should taste it later on.
Big Mac menu.
Okay. Big Mac in there?
Big Macs and Quarter Pounders are still the big sellers here with both Norwegians and Americans. There are other hamburger places in town, but until somebody can explain what 100% Rett is, most Americans take a pass. You see, Norwegians have a tendency to sneak moose and reindeer into everything.
I'm a little tired of going to the cafeterias and they're serving Bullwinkle and Rudolph for lunch, so I decided to come to McDonald's and go American.
Why am I here? Because it's McDonald's. That's why I'm here, and I'm tired of eating reindeer. I've got a reindeer up to here.
Unlike America, not everybody in this country has eaten at a McDonald's. As a matter of fact, most haven't, including our Norwegian guide, Svein. Svein, you ever have a Big Mac?
Big Mac?
And so we can get an unbiased Norwegian opinion of a truly American experience. So?
Very good.
Very good?
Yes.
Another Norwegian corrupted. We truly are a bad influence on this country. But I guess now it's only fair I try the McSalmon. Svein, you want to trade?
Yes.
You want that? Can I have the Big Mac?
Yes.
Norwegians are a silent but smart people.
What?